everybody, and welcome back to Finding Fashion. Today I'm so excited to welcome Tiggy Derham, who is the co-founder of Oola Lingerie. Thanks so much for joining me, Tiggy. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's lovely to see you too.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do at Oola Lingerie?
Sure. So I'm the co-founder of Oola Lingerie. My business partner, Sarah Maskell, and I started the brand at the end of last year. We launched at the end of last year and we started sort of this time last year, a little bit before May, June. So we are a very new lingerie brand, plus size brand on the marketplace. So yeah, I spend most of my day, all of my day, brand building with Sarah. So that's me basically in a nutshell.
So prior to launching Oola, you actually worked as a buyer, didn't you? How did you find that experience working as a buyer helped you in setting up your own business?
Yeah, so I was at Arcadia for over 20 years and I worked across different brands, sort of Dorothy Perkins, Evans, and across multiple product categories. So I suppose it's sort of brought me to this place. You know, there's no way I could be doing what I'm doing now without having all of that experience. And I worked buying. I was a buying manager across non-clothing, which incorporated lingerie. It's actually a footwear buyer as well. That's sort of my specialism, footwear and accessories. And I also, within Arcadia, moved over to the digital side. So again, it's sort of molded, my knowledge of all things plus size. And then also just, it's given me exposure to lots of different bits of the business. It's introduced me to lots of different people who, of course, now have moved on. They're in different at different retailers. So yeah, it's sort of everything to where I am now, really. I wouldn't be able to be doing this without that experience.
Do you think there's any key skills that you took from those experiences as a buyer and working in digital that you've kind of fed forward to your job now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a buyer, you've got to have the passion for the product. That's number one. You've got to completely know your customer and your marketplace. And you've got to be able to have a product that you can present digitally. I suppose that's the big shift now, sort of from when I first started buying, that it wasn't a big, there wasn't a big digital side to the business. Whereas now you've got to always think about what you're buying and how you're going to present that to your customer, and present all of the elements of that product as well. I remember there was always sort of a bit of a thing where, black is much harder to photograph well online, whereas, black was always the number one color that everyone sold. It is harder to sell online. It doesn't come across so well. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's all elements that you've got to take and put all of your knowledge together to move forward. And things are always changing as well. But luckily, when I was at Evans, I moved over to the digital side, and definitely without that knowledge, I probably wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now. And Sarah and I wouldn't work so well as a team. So yeah, that's sort of when we first started talking about Oola, that is what was so attractive about it. I had the sort of digital side experience and the plus size experience. She also had the plus size experience, but also has been in lingerie and has that sort of manufacturing and technical knowledge that isn't, my forte. So between us, we've sort of hopefully got most bases covered, not everything, but most of them.
So Oola, we were talking earlier that Oola is such a young company and you've only really been live for kind of about 6 months.
Yeah.
Company,
yeah.
You've come such a long way, which is so incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Do you think that kind of as a younger company, you have felt that you're kind of better equipped to kind of be agile in response to a changing market?
Yes, I mean, just to put it into context, so we started talking about Oola May, June last year. Then we launched in the October, but just with a couple of lines. So we fully really launched in December. And as we sit here now, we are selling on our own website. We are live on John Lewis. We are live across all Freeman's sites. So that's Cavissa, Kaleidoscope. There's 5 sites there that we're live on. We're live on Live Unlimited, Brass Stop, Silk Thread. So yeah, there is, you know, we have come quite a long way. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but we have gone quite a long way in a short period of time. But in answer to your question, yes, I mean, you know, new companies or new businesses can be agile. You know, you haven't got that sort of aging infrastructure that sort of perhaps these big retailers might have. But saying that, you know, as small companies, there's a lot of costs involved as well. Although it's very easy to perhaps have an idea, you know, get a Shopify account. I mean, this is what sort of the online world would tell you, isn't it? And Instagram and everything. And then, of course, you're open to the world and you can start trading. But of course, what you need to be able to do is have quality products that you can keep in stock and be able to fulfill those orders. So yeah, there's sort of definite pros and cons to being a small company. But yeah, we've seen that. We've seen onboarding with companies that are forward thinking and who know that sort of that whole direct to consumer is absolutely the way forward and the future of retail. And then there are other retailers that are perhaps going to have to move in that direction. But it is very expensive, I'm sure. You know, you have that cost of integration, which isn't always easy.
So I want to quiz you a little bit more about the design process. And I think there's this kind of common misconception that a lot of plus size lingerie is often seen as like really quite frumpy. What kind of design details do you guys like utilize to kind of bridge the gap between lingerie that not only kind of is functional, but also makes you feel amazing as well?
Yeah, well, in fact, saying that plus size is sometimes seen as frumpy, I mean, really, that was the start of the conversation between Sarah and I. We absolutely could see there was a gap in the market. We knew it when I was at Evans, and that's actually where I know Sarah from. You know, there hasn't been a new sort of plus size lingerie brand for a while. There's sort of there's real traditional brands that have been in the marketplace that have been doing a good job for a long time, but they are sort of more traditional in terms of their designs and also certainly in terms of their color, you know. And then there's sort of other brands that are really overtly sexy, and there's just no middle ground of contemporary, everyday, gorgeous quality underwear. And that's what we wanted to do in the plus size marketplace. So in terms of what we do from the start process, is Sarah and I have really similar tastes. You know, we're not saying we're a real fashion brand or anything. We are about everyday, contemporary, you know, fairly timeless, I would say, as well, in terms of our design. And we take a design and we look at it on the curve figure, and therefore we will adjust it because, you know, perhaps, you know, our straps are wider for a chance, but everything has to be in proportion. We take laces, we look at the proportion of the laces, and we just make the designs contemporary in terms of their color, in terms of, you know, perhaps their shape. You know, we've got hardware in rose gold, and, you know, we're just trying to make a very, very beautiful product that is functional, that's really supportive. And so far, definitely the reaction to it has been fantastic. And we're selling, you know, as much as we're selling the nudes and the blacks and the whites, we're also selling the color. And that's what's so exciting for us, because that's what we set out to do.
When you see those kind of responses from your customers, that actually it's not just kind of like the blacks and nudes that are selling, but it is the colors as well. How do you use those kind of insights to feed forward into the future designs that you create?
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting, and again, just to reiterate how new a company we are, I mean, we've been trading on John Lewis for uh, just about 1 month. So, we haven't been trading on Freeman's for that long either. So, every week for us is really important. We find out a little bit more about who our customer is and what she likes. And what is really exciting is the fact that we are selling really different products on, we've got 37 options. So we're selling different products on each platform. So what it sort of is beginning to show us is in the future, we will absolutely curate and buy to different platforms. And I think that's what's absolutely fantastic, because it's showing that Oola is attractive to lots of different ages, lots of, everywhere, in terms of, demographics, geography, there's nothing that we haven't reached yet. And that's great. And across all the sizes. I mean, we start at 38, we end at a 46. And again, when we first started trading, we saw perhaps the lower sizes selling, but now absolutely there's no differential. So yeah, that's what we're finding really, really positive, actually.
There's such a huge conversation around kind of plus size and body confidence,
Yeah.
isn't there? And I think for me, for example, like wearing like amazing lingerie just boosts my confidence no end. Like dressing from, I think there's real truth in kind of dressing from the inside out. In terms of, yourself and what you feed into the business, what does kind of body confidence mean to you and also to Oola Lingerie?
So because I've worked in plus size for a long time, and I appreciate I'm not plus size myself, it's a really emotional purchase. So again, it's that what we're trying to do with Oola is, as well as it looking fantastic, which hopefully everyone will agree it does, it fits. It's the product is a very good fitting product, and it's quality, and that is what Sarah is fantastic at. She's been doing it a long time. She has her own business. We work very closely with our factory in China. We have a team in China. So for us, it's about confidence. It's like you say, if you feel good and something fits you, it can absolutely change your mind, and it can change your mindset, and it can put you in a much better mood. And also what we found as well in our journey is, there's a huge number of people that are in the wrong size bra or wrong shape bra, and we don't, all of our, say for all of our knickers, for example, are high-waisted. They are, we don't pretend that we are, our underwear is really, really sexy or anything like that. It's just good fitting, well designed, supportive underwear that is also really, really stylish, because what we're about is the curvy body. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's about offering colourful, positive underwear that fits. And like you say, it can totally shape a body, and it can shape your day, and it can certainly shape a mood.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree that I have to be comfortable to be able to feel good about myself and to feel confident. I have to be completely and utterly comfortable. Like I can't be this person who, like, if I've got the wrong pants on, then I can still feel like, if I've got, like, if my feet hurt and going out in high heels, like I can't cope with it.
No.
So I have to feel like truly confident, and I think it's got to start with your lingerie.
Yeah, it's definitely the feedback that we're having, though, that it is comfortable. I think once, don't get me wrong, we, as people start to buy from Oola, we're seeing a lot of our customers buying more than one size, which again, we would suggest, if you're not very sure of your size, our customers should ask us, and whoever you're buying your lingerie from, it's, what is key though is, for us, we just had feedback from so many people. They were like, "Oh, I just want to take my bra off at the end of the day," and you're like, "Well, but you are in the wrong bra then."
Yeah,
that shouldn't be the case. It should actually not be uncomfortable, and I think that is because, perhaps in the size that we are offering lingerie to, from the 38s to the 46s, there just hasn't been that choice. So, you sort of put up perhaps with what you have. And we're all, especially after lockdown, everyone's figures changed, everyone's body's changed.
100%.
God, yeah. I mean, we certainly, everyone's changed, whatever you've been doing, so it is a good time to try a new lingerie brand, in my opinion. So yeah.
With that kind of online fitting and things, like there's been quite a lot of lingerie brands who during the pandemic have kind of been offering virtual digital fittings.
Yeah.
How do you kind of really engage with your customer to ensure that they know about your fits and they're buying like the best style for them, that's they're buying the right size, for example?
Yeah, I definitely think this is where we have got room for improvement. I mean, ultimately, we are a tiny team and we're sort of doing everything. We're having to juggle every part of the business, but it is definitely a focus for us. We have had where we have said to people, message us, or we've had virtual fittings where Sarah will either email or do a Zoom. Every single one of those customers has bought, and some of them have rebought as well. We've got quite a few returning customers, which I think is a positive for us.
Amazing.
But definitely it's something that we need all of our, as our customer base grows, we need to tell them. And that is something that we know we need to do. But yeah, we are really open to people messaging us, and I'm sure other companies are, whatever the company is. I think when you're a smaller company, that is the absolute beauty. You get to know who your customers are, and that is a real privilege, actually.
I think it's interesting that you say there that that's an area that you've got room for improvement, because firstly, you're a really young business anyway, but any business, whatever you're doing, should be kind of being agile and adapting all the time. So, and it's an exciting place to be at the moment, where you can be so connected with your consumer and your customer that you can get direct feedback from them that is what they want, and that's how you can help them in order to kind of create a better business and ultimately sell more product.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, in terms of just technology, all of the information, as we grow, with Google Analytics, all of this information comes through. And it's something that perhaps because we've worked for bigger organizations, we are very structured on how we look at all of that. So, there isn't, a week that we don't know what the best Instagram post is, what was clicked into the most, what page people are bouncing off from. It is, there's so much information that you can constantly learn, and, you're never going to get it 100% right. But I think that's it. It's learning, what's working and what is not working really fast. You've got to fail fast and move on and change things. And that's what we're trying to do. But yeah, I mean, it is, we're learning all the time from our customers. And when the situation changes, and perhaps as we see some success, we'll be able to do pop-ups, for example, where we can actually then go and meet people. But lots of people don't want to be fitted, they don't want to have a fit in Zoom. Not sure I necessarily would. And you can actually gauge a lot from people just by emails as well. We've fitted over an email, as long, and with imagery, you can sort of tell people sizes. I mean, actually, one of the first influencers I worked with Oola, she was way out on her size, way out. She thought she was a 38 and she was really a 44.
Wow.
Yeah. And she actually couldn't believe it when she was fitted in the right size bra, and properly fitted where the shoulder straps were the tightness that they needed to be. Her whole shape changed, actually. It was amazing.
That's incredible. It must be so rewarding to see when you can change somebody's life like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing about for Sarah and I, we've never wavered, we've never worried about the success, because it's a slow burn. You're not going to start a brand in a day. Again, going back to sort of Instagram and, you know, what Facebook might lead you to think that you can suddenly get a successful brand overnight. No way. It takes, I'm sure, you know, we don't know, we're sort of, I suppose, our whole process we're a year through, but we're sort of 7 months into trading. You know, we are years off from being a very, very established brand, and we know that. And I think that's the thing, you've got to do this sort of slow burn, and you've got to make sure you're in front of the people that will be buying, and that takes a long while.
So when you're engaging with your consumer, it's for any brand, it's so important to kind of shape that kind of tone and voice, to make really kind of engaging content that's to capture their attention. How do you use like kind of those insights, but also to kind of shape the imagery that you create, like how you talk to your customer?
Well, you know, again, going back to the fact that we are just sort of a tiny team, mainly Sarah and I, and, you know, we have somebody who works on our Instagram, and, you know, but it is mainly us. And, you know, our tone of voice is just us. In terms of the imagery, you know, there's sort of no, you know, huge strategy. I just feel as though we've got to like it. It's got to be a really positive, energetic image that you're going to want to buy from. And the whole concept of Oola is it's about curves. So for us, you know, that's got to be represented. But I remember, you know, like I remember the owner of Hush, just she was interviewed once, and she was saying it's just a nice image, you know. And again, that's it. We've sort of learned quickly that, you know, we had a lot of, you know, things in images, and, you know, actually the product speaks for itself. If you've got a great model with great curves and great product, that's all you need really, and a good photographer. So yeah, you know, I think for us, you know, there's no sort of hidden agenda. It's just about, our tone of voice is honest, but it's positive, you know. And it's just, you know, the whole thing was about offering contemporary, supportive, well-fitting underwear. That's it. You know, we're not sort of trying to do too much more than that.
You mentioned models there, and some of your models that you've got, all of your models that you've got on there are absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I read on your socials that you've recently launched a competition with 12 Plus Model Agency, which sounds so exciting, to find your next model. What is it that you look for in the models that you cast?
So yeah, so far we've had 2 shoots. So the last shoot we had Rachel and Rianne, and then the first shoot we had Nicoletta and Liv. So I suppose, you know, Sarah and I cast those models with shape in mind. You know, for us, absolutely, their curves have to be right. They have to have a really full bust. We want them to have, you know, they want them to look real. But also want them to have lots of amazing energy and just be really positive and smiley, and also just for us to get on with them. You know, with Oola, we sort of feel like whoever we work with, we want them to be really into the brand, and that goes from models to our warehouse to everybody that we work with. So yeah, in terms of what we look for, we just, yeah, it's just a really positive energy that you know, will represent the brand, I suppose. Yeah.
So you talked there a little bit about John Lewis and how you've been selling on there for the last month.
Yeah.
So exciting, alongside loads of other amazing retailers. You are a small brand, and you're a new brand. What's the process like when you are approaching and kind of pitching to those like big name household retailers in order to get stocked on their website? What happens?
Oh, well, what happens? So I suppose it goes back to your perhaps earlier question of, you know, how has being a buyer helped you to get to this point? So I think that is actually another really good point, that, you know, I've been the other side of that, you know, so I don't particularly get nervous. You know, sometimes we know them, or certainly we know similar colleagues. but yeah, the process is that we just pitch what we've got. We pitch the brand, and so far that's been successful. Not every retailer that we've pitched to has taken it, and actually you realize that it's about alignment. I said it before, there's no point in us being on a really young platform, because we're not targeting that customer. And our price points are sort of 40 to 45 pounds, with our knickers being 22 pounds. So again, we're not really cheap either. Who we're targeting are women who want quality, good fitting lingerie at that price point, who haven't been able to get it in that size. So the process is quite simple, because we pitch, but what happens afterwards is with whoever we're pitching to, whether it's John Lewis or whether it's Freeman's, we've just got to be confident that we can serve that customer and work with them in the way that they're going to be working. So John Lewis, it's been in the press recently, they're actually really ahead in terms of their direct-to-consumer model. So we are fully integrated into the John Lewis system. And again, it goes back to other points that we've said today. That's not the cheapest thing to do, and it's not something that you can do without, having technical help. And that these are all things that you have to consider when you are building a brand, because this is the way it's going. Direct to consumer is the way it's going. Although some companies will still buy wholesale, as a brand that is going to stay in the marketplace for a significant period of time, you have got to have the resources to be able to, serve customers directly, and that takes, work and resource. But going back to the John Lewis experience, it was phenomenally professional. They were an amazing team to work with, and still are. And yeah, we feel really lucky to be on there, actually. And we're already sort of talking about having catch-ups, because it's a two-way thing. We're on their platform, but and we obviously want our product to sell, but they need to help us get in front of the right customer as well.
There's such an exciting kind of retailer to be working with at the moment, because they're stocking so many different kind of brands online. They've got a great team there, haven't they, who are kind of really kind of shaping up how department stores are seen in.
They definitely are. I mean, they've had a bit of slack recently for their concession rates, and again, that is something that it is a challenge, but from the experience that we had onboarding, it's been great. And I think for a new brand to be able to see that you're on John Lewis, there's a lot of people trust John Lewis, don't they? So what we need to be doing is being on John Lewis, and we need to be on different platforms and just widen the net, because that is the danger perhaps of what's happening in retail at the moment. Is there's a lot of marketplaces, and a lot of those marketplaces all sell the same product. So how they're going to differentiate their marketplaces in the future will be an interesting watch, I think, for us brands.
Have you got any advice on kind of for those who are setting up a business, and for those kind of like newer brands who would be looking to be stocked via a big retailer? Like, what would be your advice when they were to approach a big retailer?
Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, initially, you've just got to have a real confidence in your product, and you've absolutely got to have huge confidence in your, in your production and your manufacturing setup. And that, I believe, is key, because I couldn't imagine if I sort of doubted the quality of things. That would be too much to deal with as well. But I think if you've got a good product and you've got, you're able to grow, and that's the thing, you've got to be able to scale up. So with Lewis, for example, you have to commit to being in stock, and to be in stock, if you're manufacturing I mean, Oola is manufactured in China. That is a juggling act. There's no doubt about it. And there is, there's a lot of investment that has to go into the stock. So my advice, perhaps is, if you're not in that situation, you've got to ask yourself whether retailers like John Lewis would be the right one to go on. What you've got to do is, choose the marketplaces that are right for you and that you can service, and you can service well. So yeah, but that it is easier these days. It's certainly easier. We've got sort of Shopify and we've got Squarespace, that you can start a brand and it can go global overnight. But it's the sustainability of that, isn't it? And the how you scale that up, and that will make you whether you stand the test of time, I suppose.
Well,
so fingers crossed we will.
Well, you've already received some amazing recognition across the industry. I was swatting up on your website, and you've already been featured in the Independent, Cosmopolitan, Women in Home, Harper's Bazaar, and Drapers, as you mentioned earlier. How have you seen the conversation change around kind of plus size lingerie, plus size fashion amongst journalists?
Well, there's definitely a bigger conversation, isn't there? There's much more of a conversation about body neutrality, body acceptance, and all of that is very positive. You've got Lauren Nicole at Cosmo Curve, so it's absolutely in the right direction, and it's much more expected that a brand or an established brand does have some sort of size inclusivity, but what we do quite often see is we'll see sort of some brands that might feature plus size models, for example, or plus size influencers, and then when you go in, then that product necessarily isn't right for that, a plus size figure, for example. So I think there's still a long way to go, if I'm honest. But it's certainly heading in the right direction, and these conversations are right to be had. But whatever size you are, you should be offered a choice of all sorts of clothing, and that's that's obvious, but it hasn't happened, and it's still not the case in all sizes.
I think within magazines it's all about representation, isn't it? Because I can remember being younger, and still now, reading magazines, and there's nobody who I really identify with in magazines, and I'm 5'1", and I've got big boobs, and I've got a bum, and there's not women like me in magazines. And actually it's so nice to see gradually that there is that representation, but it has to go a lot further, doesn't it? Because for so many magazines, having a section on a plus size lingerie brand, or a plus size fashion brand, it's just a column, or it's just a section, or it's just a mention. It's not something conversation that carries through every single magazine, every page of the magazine as a whole. And that almost needs to happen, because you look at the average size of a woman in the UK is around a size 16, and I don't know what average size of a woman's breasts are in the UK, but it's not necessarily what the size of models who you would see represented in the magazine.
No, definitely not. But I think there is a definite change, isn't there? I mean, you're sort of seeing plus size models on the catwalk for designer brands and on the cover of Vogue. So yeah, it's changing, but it does change slowly. I mean, this is I've been in working in plus size for over a decade, and it's definitely, it's always a slow burn, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, it's underrepresented. You can still not really go into Zara being a size 16 and buy it, or being a size sort of a curvy 18. I mean, you can't. So yeah, I think for us, we're a niche market. We are lingerie niche. We know exactly who we're targeting, and we're not apologetic about that. We're not going to suddenly go down to offer a size 32. That's not what we're about. So I think it's about these brands just being sure of who they are, but certainly within you know, the magazines, you're right, it's just sometimes, rarely, you would have like a plus size, you know, especially if they're featuring lots of different products, you know, and that's where hopefully we are intent on changing that, because, you know, as we go into, you know, autumn winter press season, why wouldn't they take Oola? Like there's no reason not to take Oola. It's not frumpy, it's not overtly sexy, it's contemporary, so it should sit on a magazine page along with everything else. That's our mission. There, right there.
You do a brilliant job. So I was reading on your website that apparently there are 5 steps to finding the perfect size bra, and as someone who has got, you know, a lingerie drawer overspilling with bras which definitely don't fit, and
yeah,
you know, I'll get at the end of the day and I want to take them off pronto. With so many women, and I'm not alone with it, so many women wearing the wrong size bra, what are we doing wrong? What are like those 5 steps to finding the perfect bra?
well, I don't think we're really doing anything wrong. I think it's quite hard to fit yourself, isn't it? I mean, that's it. It's not an easy process, and you know, there's lots of videos, you know, it's actually just really difficult, and it's difficult for whatever size you are. And so I think it's about trying to get feedback, and it's like I said earlier on, you know, there are clear steps, but again, even following those clear steps, it's how you feel in your bra. And actually for Oola, we always say, start the conversation about in a bra that you feel comfortable. What is the size of that bra? And then you know, Sarah quite often will then say, right, okay, what's wrong? The straps don't fit. Okay, we'll tighten the straps. And you know, you can sometimes just say you're actually in completely the wrong size, or actually you just probably want 1 cup bigger, you know. So I think it is about engaging with the company that you're buying from. And like I said earlier, appreciate not everybody wants to sit with a bra on in front of someone they don't know on a Zoom call, but you don't have to do that. It's about emailing. But actually, interestingly, going into autumn winter, we are actually selling Oola to wholesale, you know, we're wholesaling Oola to independents as well. So I think that's interesting. As that side of the business grows over the next couple of years, you know, we'll be able to say to people, well, look, if you don't know your size and you're not comfortable sort of buying online and returning online, you can go into various places, and you know, again, people want that one-to-one service, or certainly some people do. But yeah, it's not that we're all doing something wrong. I think it is a hard piece of clothing to get right. So therefore you do have to try. So yeah, it's not your fault. You're not alone.
That's all right then. I feel better now.
Yeah. I think also we do just throw them on. You know, I think there's an element of, you know, taking some time and putting it on right, and adjusting the straps and making sure you're fitting it correctly. But yeah, we've had lots of Instagram lives where we've talked about fit. And actually, as our audience grows, we're talking about going back and doing that again, because it is really useful. And, you know, with technology as it is, people can ask questions and feel comfortable that actually it's just in a sort of safe sort of environment. So yeah, we'll do that more and more.
I think the other interesting thing is about bras is that what I do with my lingerie is that I think I wear one once and I think, oh, that doesn't fit, I can't wear it. But actually it's so dependent on how I'm feeling, like throughout the month. Like sometimes I'll put a bra on and it'll be the comfiest thing I've ever worn. And then, you know, a week or 2 weeks later, I put it on, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wear that. Like, get it off me. And it's actually, I almost feel like with my lingerie, I need to like kind of think, right, this is what you should wear here. This is what you should wear if you're feeling amazing. This is what you should feel if you're feeling a bit like rubbish about yourself. Like thinking that actually we're also individual, aren't we? And you know, there's
well, I think that's probably as well why there are certain brands who have stocked the same bra for decades, and that's because people buy the same bra. You know, I think people find a bra that they like and then they'll just buy it in various colors, and of course, that's an easy thing to do. But hopefully as a brand, Oola will offer different shapes, different colors, and you know, the fit will remain the same, and that's a key thing as well, isn't it? You know, having that sort of standardization of fit. But yeah, you know, of course, different bras, different shapes, different occasions. So yeah, that's it. Just buy more and more. That's what we need.
That's the key, isn't it? Just buy more lingerie.
Yeah. But you do need to, and we're all guilty of it, you find something that you fit into, and then you stay with that brand.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to, you know, how the challenge of infiltrating, you know, an area where you've got to, you know, you want to be a new brand, but you know, you're the newbie on the block, and you've got a lot more to prove than the rest of them. So yeah, it's always challenging, but you've got to find ways of doing it, and the ways to do that actually is then showing bras on different bodies, and that's what we hopefully do through our Instagram. Yeah.
So what can we expect in the future for Oola? Because you've had such like a rocket star over 6 months. Where next? What can we expect next?
Yeah, well, it feels like, yeah, certainly it's definitely a positive start, and we are taking sales, and it's building momentum, and that's, you know, all we could ask for. So imminently we are on more platforms. That's an exclusive tonight. But we are, you know, we're targeting other platforms. Internationally, we've got plans as well. But again, it's like I said earlier on, it's just this sort of building that momentum, building a true audience as well, and just hopefully sort of getting the brand recognised as in as many places as we can, in the right places. So yeah, imminently we are launching on new platforms. We have new product coming in September, and then we see new product dropping down sort of onwards from that moment. So yeah, our range will grow. We'll have our model competition shoot at the end of August, so that will be exciting. You'll see that sort of campaign beginning of September. So yeah, hopefully it will just, you know, we'll keep going. So we've just got to keep the energy high and the momentum going. But yeah, we'll be talking to you hopefully in the not too distant future with being on a lot more platforms.
Definitely. Well, it's been so amazing to hear about your journey and Oola Lingerie. You've got such an exciting time to come, and I cannot wait to see where Oola Lingerie goes in the future. Well, it's the beginning of something very exciting. I know it.
Oh, well, that's so kind. Thank you. And thank you for having me on.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon.
Definitely. Speak soon.
Take care then. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.